Okay, what we're looking at now is some site context, buildings around the site that we are concerned about whether we can see through them or not to, more distant views, the quality of the views. And so let me just show you in the level view a little more clearly. This is our property line that we've already established, and then these are the buildings that surround it. And I'll just show you quickly how we're going to construct those. So I'll just delete these out. We'll go to architecture, we'll go to component, and we'll model in place, and we'll make a generic model. And we won't care what number it is or anything like that because we are not using that data. We're going to make extrusions. We'll use the rectangle tool, and so I'll just kind of eyeball this here. And we'll complete that off as an extrusion. Actually, we'll quickly look at it in 3D because we'll need to give it some height. And I'll now just duplicate that along. I've got multiple sets, so I can make a few duplicates. So I didn't want to have a space there, but we'll come back and fix that. So I just want some variation here. I'm just really trying to create a data set. And we'll look at this in 3D so we can create some variation to the building heights. Okay, so then back to, it doesn't really matter, but we're going to go back to level 1 because now we've got to bring in our Dynamo document again. And I have to apologize, it's been some time since I left this file, so when I came back, I don't know what I did, but I think this is a different color than the last video clip had. And what we need to do now is actually bring in these model elements, the multiple model elements. So I'm going to right click and we're going to select multiple model elements. Multiple model elements, and it has to say that or we're going to have a problem with it. And what I'll do is I'll reduce this down just a little bit so we can get the full view of our model. I'm going to do select, and I'll come over here and you'll notice we get a plus sign because we're in an editing mode, and we need to pay very careful attention that this little window shows up because we're going to need to finish off when we've selected them all. So you can see how this is plus. Every time I hit plus, I add it on. If you click off of them, it'll unselect all of them, so don't do that. And we'll click finish. And if we go now back to our file, we'll notice that we have all of these elements that I've clicked in. But they really don't exist as any kind of a form at this point. So we need to kind of do a little conversions of these. So first thing we want to do is actually change them from elements into geometry. So I'm going to go element.geometry. We're going to plug the element in here. Let's see if that gives us a visualization. Yes, so now we have all of our, I'm going to hold the escape key and scroll out here so we can see what we've got. Alright, so now we have all of our geometry. So this gives you a good idea where we're going with this. So we have tall buildings around. We have a building that could be anywhere on this site with any number of floors. And we want to pick the best number of floors in the best location. So with that in mind, now we have this, now is geometry. We have to do a quirky thing which is called data remember, because this is actually just prep for when we start to do generative design, and that helps us to retain this idea of the data set when it goes out to the other calculations. So just one of the quirky issues there. Now if I go ahead and run this, what we have are 16 solids. So what we really want to do is look at these as a single solid, because we're going to just find out if they intersect or not. So the first thing we'll do is, these are lists of lists. So I'm going to do a flatten. And it's worthwhile to spend a little time here seeing what we've done. So you see we have probably whatever the number of buildings is individual list. When we get over here, let me hit run again. When we get over here, every solid is now in a list, in one single list. And so what we can do is what's called solid by geometry. So we can just add them together, or solid by union, excuse me. And that just collects all of the solids into one solid. And I'll hit run again. And we'll just take a look at this, and hopefully it doesn't say null. We have a little screen view problem here. Let's see if I can do a watch list box. Okay, so now we have one solid. Oh, there it is. Now it's holding on the screen. So we have one solid as opposed to a bunch of solids. And that's going to help us when we get to the next part, and that's to look at building vectors to simulate the idea of a view from these buildings, or this building. And we only want to think of this as one single mass and whether it hits it or not, just to reduce the number of calculations. And we'll pick that up in the next clip.